What's up, CJ's Keto Kitchen family? This is CJ.
And Sarah.
It's a Wednesday, and that means it's time for another Keto
Conversations.
So let's get started. Alright, so we're back with a Keto Conversation. We're actually going to sit down and have a conversation. And no product reviews, just a conversation.
Yes, and in fact, this is one of the topics that was most popular in our poll when we asked you what was your biggest struggle with the ketogenic lifestyle. And we had a lot of comments saying budget keto. So that's what we're going to be discussing tonight.
Yeah. Okay, so we're going to talk about 7 tips for keto on a budget.
Yes.
And do you want to say anything? Because you did a lot of the research on this. And
I referenced multiple articles. The Diet Doctor has some articles on budget keto. Healthline has some on budget keto. There's a lot of different sources for this, but interestingly, most of the sources had the same information. So those are the tips that we are going to be discussing tonight.
Sure. And this isn't the first time we've talked about this,
No.
but we also realize that new people are coming to our channel and discovering us all the time.
And we've been doing videos for over 4 years now.
We've been doing videos for quite some time. So anyway, 7 tips for keto on a budget. I'll let you get started since you did most of the work.
Sure.
And then I'll just jump in.
Okay. So the first one is keep it simple. And we do enjoy talking about that quite often on our channel. Obviously, we make recipes, but even when I do make recipes, I try for the most part to keep those recipes as simple as possible. That's why I like using a lot of readily available foods. Also, foods that can be made into casseroles, because those are usually not only time-saving, but can also be cost-effective, especially if you're feeding a family. So it's very important to keep it simple, and CJ and I do eat quite simply most of the time.
Yeah, and I can, I guess, re-emphasize that we do eat simple probably 90% of the time.
Yeah.
I mean, there's probably one day a week where we either get a dessert, a special dessert, or a special meal, but that's just because we're filming a video. And then that will normally, especially if it's a regular meal, that normally will last us, you know, several meals. And so,
or a dinner and a couple of lunches, depending on who's eating. CJ usually eats lunch, so it will last over for that.
So keep it simple. You don't have to make keto hard. Just, you know, keep it simple, because that's what we give you options on this channel. But again, you don't have to eat that way every day. Those can be special meals that you do maybe once a week.
Family dinner style or Sunday dinner or however you choose to do it. But for the most part, you need a meat, a vegetable, a fat.
Yeah.
And you're done. So
now the next point is buy in bulk, which is funny to me. It's funny because of how you shop. Oh, and it's just amusing to me because we have this conversation in our house about going to the grocery store multiple times.
I need to be better about this specific tip.
But you could talk about what you mean by this tip.
Right. Well, I was a single mother for a long time, for a number of years, and the way that I did my banking was I would set aside exactly how much money I had every single day, and sometimes I only lived 6 blocks from a grocery outlet, so I would go there almost daily and pick up food for the day, and that maybe is not the best solution for people. That's almost more like New York shopping, because a lot of people who live in New York, who live in small apartments, have little tiny refrigerators, and so they'll shop every day or every other day. And so I got into that habit, and so I'm trying to break that now that, you know, I have a family and we have a home and those kinds of things. We have 2 freezers.
And the reason that's funny to me is because I grew up in a family where people bought stuff in bulk.
And you've been a lifelong Costco member.
And I've been a bulk shopper. So if I see something on sale and I can afford to get it, I will buy it. I'll stock up on it versus, you know, going all the time. So that's buying, but buying in bulk is you can do that with meats. You can do that with Can you really do that with vegetables? I guess you can do it with
Well,
vegetables.
that will be one of our later tips.
Yeah, but you
yes.
can, especially, I know you can take advantage of stuff with, especially meats. When your grocery store has stuff on sale that you can eat. And
one of the things that I wrote down was nuts. Buying nuts in bulk is generally a good situation, and if you can buy nuts that are maybe some of the less expensive nuts, maybe macadamia nuts are your favorite, but those can be quite costly.
Yeah, those can be costly.
So other alternatives are almonds and pecans, which are very similar in macros, but they're usually a lot less expensive, and you can buy those in bulk and keep them in the refrigerator.
And when you say in bulk, you're actually talking potentially about the bulk food areas.
Yes, you absolutely can do that, or a lot of times like Costco or some of your big box stores will sell larger bags of nuts, and that's generally how we choose to buy it.
Yeah.
But also buying it in the bulk foods is also a good way. And if you keep it refrigerated, like I said, we have 2 refrigerators, it helps to preserve things, and so they don't get rancid or taste off or that kind of thing. So it's a good tip.
But buying in bulk when you can
Yes.
is a good money saving tip.
Right.
Okay, what's number 3?
Buy in season. And so even people who practice the paleo lifestyle or any kind of hunter-gatherer kind of lifestyles, this is also promoted, where you're eating foods that generally grow in the season that you're in. So we are coming into summer, and CJ and I try and practice this a little bit more in the summer. We do like to eat more berries in the summer because they're readily available and they're not as expensive during the summer season here in the United States. So we'll buy more berries, eat more berries in the summertime. Likewise, a lot of your squashes, pumpkins, things like that are more readily available, cranberries, in the fall. And so it is helpful and also cost effective if you can buy things that are growing in the time of year that you're currently in, because number 1, you will be able to find them, and number 2, usually they will be at a savings.
Sure. Did we skip one?
Nope. That was number... Oh, I'm sorry, we did. We skipped number 3.
That's all right. So, but we kind of talked about number 3 anyway.
Right.
We look for sales.
Right.
So we kind of combined 2 and 3 together.
Bulk and sales.
Bulk and sales. But it's okay. I just wanted to make sure that I was following through.
You were on the right page and I was on the wrong page.
But we're always looking for sales. And then, like Sarah said, buying stuff in season is a good tip. But again, this kind of goes back to keeping it simple. We still, even with vegetables, I guess we do have some seasonal vegetables that we buy.
Well, it's easier and less expensive. Like, sometimes things like asparagus or, sometimes, in the dead of winter, it's like $1 million to get a thing of asparagus. And so it's like, I don't know, I'm going to eat something less expensive,
And then a lot of times as the spring and summer comes, and you already said this, stuff is in season.
Right.
So it's fresher.
There's farmers markets sometimes.
So it's actually may even be better for you nutritionally because it's fresher versus, and some of y'all live in places where stuff is actually grown.
Exactly. And if you have if you're growing your own vegetables, if you have the inclination or the land or whatever, then if you're going out to your garden and picking your vegetables for dinner, hey, you can't get less expensive and fresher than that. So, definitely.
Right.
But a lot of times I noticed that, especially the grocery stores that we shop at, a lot of times they'll have the stuff that's on sale when you enter the store. We like to shop at Winco, and a lot of times they'll have promotional items, meat items, right when you walk into the store. So sometimes that can be helpful too. Like if ground beef's on sale or if they have some kind of meat that's on sale, sometimes they'll put it out front. So they're actually helping you to see what's on sale at that particular time.
Right.
So.
All right, so we did number 3,
we did 3 and 4. Yep.
Buy in season, look for sales. Number 5, frozen over fresh. And we touched on that a little bit, but go ahead.
Well, if you can buy frozen vegetables and they're less expensive, or frozen fruit. I know that the recipe I made this last week was for blueberry muffins, and I opted to use frozen blueberries instead of fresh. And part of the reason was because of the cost and not just the availability. I can buy blueberries right now in the grocery store, but they're $5 or $6. And I got a bag of frozen blueberries for $1.88.
Right.
And it tasted the same. It was actually more convenient for me to put frozen berries into my muffins. They stayed together a little bit better. Another reason for fresh over frozen is sometimes more of your vitamins and your phytonutrients get preserved, because a lot of the times the vegetables are frozen at the facility that they're harvested and grown at. Everything's done in one spot. So all of your vitamins and everything are quick frozen into your produce. So sometimes it is a better nutritional bargain to buy frozen versus, you know, vegetables that came to you over a number of days on a truck. So sometimes not only is it a better value, but it can also be better for you nutritionally.
And I guess I should add, and you probably are noticing by just how we're talking about this, we have never practiced keto where we believe that you have to have everything fresh and everything has got to be organic.
Absolutely.
Everything's got to be grass fed.
No.
So we're coming from a perspective of just normal folks who go to a normal grocery store, who buy, you know, we buy fresh sometimes, but if we need to get frozen, we will get frozen, and we still have had success on keto. So that's just something I want to make sure people know, because a lot of times people come to keto and you're under the impression that you have to have everything organic, everything has got to be super fresh, or it's got to be grass fed.
Blessed by monks in the Andes.
You know, so,
no.
And so we are coming from the perspective that you don't have to do that. We're coming from a perspective that you can do keto affordably and, you know, and still have success doing it. So that's what these tips are kind of how they kind of align.
Buy the best you can afford. And if, you know, down the road, you know, you want to start buying those things and your budget allows, great. But you can do successful ketogenic diet without all of these pricey, expensive foods, and all of your top nutritionists and doctors will tell you that. They have said that multiple times, so it's not just us saying that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, so number 6 is meal plan and prep to reduce waste.
Yes.
Okay, so
like what we discussed in the beginning about keeping it simple, casseroles, foods that go far. If you are planning ahead of time, a lot of times you can create a situation where you're doing less waste. Utilize your leftovers, do meal prep, pack things for lunches.
yeah.
You know, it's not going to hurt you to eat the same meal the following night. So it's definitely a way to cut costs.
Yeah, and we probably should practice more. So now when I think of food prep, I'm thinking of how the people put stuff together for the entire week and make a bunch of meals. And I've actually done that before I did keto.
Usually you had specialized containers even, didn't you?
Yeah, I had specialized. But so, and a lot of y'all do meal prep every week. We see it in the comments. People talk about that. And that's valuable to do and something to consider if you're trying to save money on keto. But like Sarah just said, even just from the standpoint of planning out what you're going to eat every day, whether you cook all of it at one time or multiple times a week, that's up to you. But I know she's always trying to get me to say, well, what should we have for dinner?
He hates that question.
I don't care. Whatever.
And I didn't realize when you became an adult, one of the hardest things about becoming an adult was trying to decide what you were going to eat for dinner every single day for the rest of your natural life. To me, the deciding is the hardest part. I'll cook it. Tell me what to cook and I'll cook it. But trying to decide, I hate that.
Yeah, but
so I always pass it on to CJ.
But that comes back to me is about keeping it simple, because I don't really care.
No, you're very
because I'm not. Again, I have no expectation that you're gonna make a casserole every night or you're gonna have some fancy deal. I mean, keto doesn't have to be hard. No. Again, every week we have something special, because we do a recipe every week. So sometimes it's sweet, sometimes it's savory.
Right. But that's once a week.
That's once a week.
And we also eat off of that for however long it's there.
However, though, you will plan, especially when all the kids are here and when Izzy's here, you'll plan and you may do a casserole early in the week.
Yes.
So there's meal planning that's going on. It may not be like full meal prep where you're cooking everything and then you're laying it out in sections.
But I have in my head.
But
recipe ideas,
kind of has an idea of where we're going to go and what we're going to do. Right. And again, it doesn't have to be that difficult, and but it doesn't have to be super fancy all the time. It can just
and that's going to be part of our last tip.
All right, so last tip number 7, buy less expensive meat.
Yes. So
choose eggs.
Yes. Choose eggs. I want to talk about right off the top. We are big time egg eaters in this family, and maybe some of you don't care for eggs, but eggs are like a perfect food. Okay, they are just magic in a shell for you nutritionally, and I have turned my children onto eggs, and they will eat eggs night or day. We also eat a lot of eggs. You pretty much eat eggs daily. I hard boil eggs. Eggs are wonderful for keto on a budget because generally eggs are readily available and usually lower price. And we're not talking free range and, the golden goose didn't lay this egg. We're just talking about regular run-of-the-mill eggs. So if you want to buy those and they're within your budget, great. But just regular eggs are so terrific for you and really a bargain when it comes to ketogenic foods.
Yeah, and we probably could do even more with eggs. Like, I wish we did deviled eggs more.
Yeah.
Just because that's a really handy thing to have, and it breaks up the, scrambled, the omelets.
My oldest daughter will...
And the boiled.
She'll take them to school for her lunch. The hard-boiled ones, I have an egg slicer, and she slices them up and just takes them with her to school. So... eggs are super popular.
So what about the less expensive meat?
So that's where I was going with our last point when I plan for our larger family meals when all the kids are here with us. Things like ground beef. Things that are made with ground beef, because where we live, ground beef is usually on sale somewhere, and we have tried to food save ground beef in portions large enough for our family of 5. And things like chicken thighs, meat on the bone. Some of your less expensive cuts of meat on the bone, like chicken thighs with the bone in. Sometimes it can be more expensive because they're weighing the meat with the bone. So sometimes it's not as much of a value, but where we live, meat on the bone tends to be less expensive. Pork chops on the bone, anything that's bone in tends to be less expensive. Roasts are a good option. Tougher cuts of meat that can be slowly cooked. And I have learned over the years how to do that and have become good friends with my slow cooker because of that.
Yeah, and we've got a couple of recipes up about how to slow cook
pork roast
and other things.
Yeah.
And it gives you some tips. And then you did something in some recipe that we had where you...
Yes, I velvetized my beef for our beef stroganoff. If you missed that in my blog post, I gave a tip on how to velvetize beef.
What is that?
It is actually an Asian technique that utilizes baking soda on extremely tough cuts of meat. And it's generally what is practiced if you go to like a teriyaki restaurant or any of your Chinese restaurants and you're ordering a stir fry. They use this velvetizing technique with baking soda. Check it out on my blog post. And it shows you that you can take these really tough cuts of meat and just in 30 minutes make them so much more tender. So in that way you're saving money. A lot of times things like stew meat and other things will be put in a package in bulk for very inexpensive, and you could still make it a nice tender juicy meal if you prepare it correctly.
Right. And then I want to say one thing that's not on the list, because I know one of the things that people always talk about with keto, especially when you start getting into desserts, when you're trying to make desserts, the cost of almond flour, the cost of the natural sweeteners, and so on and so forth. So yes, those things may seem like they're more expensive, but they probably are. Natural sweetener is never going to be as cheap as sugar.
Correct.
Okay.
Or a bag of flour.
Right. Yeah. Almond flour is never going to be as cheap as a bag of flour. And so that's just the reality of doing keto. And if you want to do keto treats and snacks that you make yourself, that's just the reality of it. So but one of the ways you can get around that is you can, number one, again, plan what you're going to do. Because again, just because we make it and we give you an ideal doesn't mean you have to make it every week. Sure, we would love you to make it every week. We love you to watch the video every week. But that doesn't mean you have to make it every week and eat it every week. It just means here's another option for you and I remember somebody this week said, I'm doing carnivore for 2 months or something. I'm going to make this recipe when I get done.
It's a treat.
It's a treat. And so in their head, they said, okay, this is where I'm at now. I want to make this. I can't make this now because this is where I'm at.
Right, doesn't fit into my choice.
It doesn't fit
right
into
now.
it, so I'm going to have these lemon blueberry muffins later. I'm going to set this recipe aside. So just realize that with keto, yes, there are some differences. Almond flour, some of the sweeteners.
But a lot of your grocery stores are starting to come down on their prices of things like almond flour.
And then we buy a lot of that stuff on Amazon.
Yeah.
And the reason we buy a lot of it on Amazon is because it's cheaper. Because it's less expensive. So I know a lot of people, we live in a pretty metropolitan area. Amazon has a special truck that comes to our house like every day.
And they knock on the door, are you okay? Because you didn't get anything today.
That's a joke about the special truck, but they do come to our house pretty much every day. But we get a lot of stuff from Amazon. And some of the stuff that we get the sweeteners, we get our almond flours a lot of time. And we do that because a lot of times it's better price.
Yes.
It's a better price. And so for some of those kind of products, you may have to shop around and find the best deal.
Yeah.
And that's just the reality of it. But again, and then once you get it, you're not using almond flour every week.
You're probably not using it in the capacity that we are, where you're making a recipe weekly.
You're not. Right.
Well, and also, hopefully, I have ironed out the kinks for you. If you are following our recipes, hopefully there won't be the level of waste that you might be concerned about.
True.
Because hopefully I have worked out any possible kinks. So if you follow the directions, it should turn out just fine.
And that's true. So that's another reason our videos aren't like 2 minutes long, because we're
trying to help you get
we
it
actually
right.
do try to help you be able to do the recipes
especially if
the
you're just learning.
way. So anyway, that's just the reality. I know people, sometimes we hit that comment about the cost of almond flours and sweeteners and all that. Yep, you know what? It does cost a little bit of money. But again, you're not going to use it all the time. So it may be one of those things, shop around, look for the best deal.
Once again, you could do bulk.
Yep.
A lot of places where if you just need like 2 cups of almond flour, you could buy
That's
2
true.
cups of almond flour. So definitely
That's
keep
true.
those situations in mind.
That's true. We have the market
we
go to,
multiple bulk
where you can go to bulk, get
supermarkets.
bulk, and almond flour is one of the things you can get in bulk. And so we could get just what
you needed. If it was just you,
recipe.
or you were really trying to save money, you could actually just buy enough for the recipe.
Yeah. So anyway, hopefully these 7 tips will help someone who may be struggling with that, how to save money on keto. I guess we would love to hear your comments.
Yeah, leave them in the comments if you've got other suggestions for subscribers. And we're here to collective brain, help everyone through keto awesomeness.
Yeah, if you have other tips that you can pass on to people, that would be good as well. So those are just things that we have found that work for us. And again, y'all ain't going to go through as much stuff as we go through, because you ain't making recipes every week to do stuff.
Sometimes
like
multiple times to get it right.
Yeah. So, anyway, we hope that you have a good rest of the week. If you're new here, this is our Keto Conversation segment, where we actually do sit down sometimes on Wednesdays and we actually talk to you about relevant keto topics.
Yes.
Sometimes on Wednesdays you'll get food unboxing, what we eat, and a whole bunch of other stuff. But we actually started this segment on Wednesday nights
4 years ago,
sitting down talking about relevant keto topics. And consider subscribing, hit the notification bell. That's the only way you'll know when we have new videos. And we hope that you have a good rest of the week, and we'll talk at you later. Bye bye.
Peace.
Peace.